of or criticism of colonial legacy require, number one, centering the voices of the oppressed, not only the oppressed, the marginalized, the subaltern, the victimized people. Okay, these works also emphasize that colonial violence is physically enacted upon both human bodies, especially female bodies, and the geographical landscape. Therefore, liberation and justice involve a healing and reclaiming process, and the act of writing itself, the act of writing these texts, literary texts, the act of writing is a form of resistance, okay, and struggle. So the colonial narrative is not just a passive reflection of what is going on reality, but an active force and a participant agent that processes trauma and preserves memory, shaping our political consciousness or awareness of resistance or of struggling with the other, or at the same time building our own identities, okay? And through the techniques of storytelling and narrative, novels and poetry become essential, powerful tools in the ongoing struggle for decolonization, self-definition, and justice. And finally, these decolonial narratives assert the true liberation requires what? Not just political or economic change, but also an epistemic revolution, ثورة معرفية. So we have to be aware of, again, what is going on around us in the whole world, not just in literature, but in all fields. Okay. World and our environment. It was okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asma, for this extensive and very academic presentation. It is interesting. I have done some decolonial work myself. Actually,
yes, I followed you on Facebook page, and
yes,
I noticed this.
I did one on Professor Abdulwahab al-Misir and how his autobiography was colonial because he was among the very few writers who did not believe that we should catch up with the West. And it's like
Yes.
he declared that progress is a myth, and we shouldn't be competing in a never-ending catch-up game, which started like from the early 19th century, and it has never come to an end, which means it was a bad game from the beginning. I would like to start by opening the whole session for questions. Whoever, and I would like to welcome Dr. Dua Omran. She's joined us, and we're really pleased to have her with us. So, Dr. Dua, are you?
Yes. Maybe one day she comes in your letter. Inshallah, and have her own presentation.
Hello. Hi,
Yes,
can you hear me?
we're listening.
Running this event.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for running this event and this literary salon. And thank you for inviting Dr. as her scholarship.
Yes, I mean she's
Hello?
we hear you. I should fix my internet, I guess.
I'm
I
done.
was just dealing
I'm
with
done.
It should work now because once
just
I close the door, the internet is intercepted, and I don't know how wood would interfere with an electric signal. It's beyond my comprehension. But anyway, it does. So, Professor Omran, we have been listening to you commenting on Dr. Asma. So,
Yes.
can you please
Yeah,
repeat
thank
that
you so
again?
much for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for organizing these events and giving us the chance to listen to Dr. Asma's great scholarly work.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And holding this literary salon, this virtual literary salon.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
had the idea like a year ago, and actually it's an imitation because I used to attend a literary salon at Abdul Wahab al-Misri's house in Masr al-Jadida, and typically he would invite around 10 people like every Tuesday from 4 o'clock to 8 over coffee, and American coffee was served all the time. And he held very interesting discussions and questions. I was a listener because at that time in 2005, I had just got my master's, so I was more or less a listeners because they were all professors and so on. So I didn't feel small, but I felt like I didn't know any much as I had a lot to learn from them. So I kept listening.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, thank you for taking the initiative.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dua, for joining us.
And maybe one day Dr. Dua is presenting something with you, Dr.
Yes,
Mahmoud.
it's next in line if she agrees. I would very much like to if she. So
Yeah, thank
next,
you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. Yeah, we can definitely arrange something.
yes, of course, we'll arrange something, Professor.
Thank you.
Now with the questions, I have a question, but I don't want to be the one who dominates the discussion, so I will wait for others to start.
Okay.
So do I start? I will start. Should I start?
Okay.
Okay. Now what was interesting about decoloniality is it's not new. Like when I read Culture and Imperialism, some 20 years ago, Edward Said was focused. He said his idea of culture was focused on that culture was fought over land. It wasn't like over ideology or things like that. It was over land. So imperialism and culture and all these notions, after all, were focused on who gets to get the land. Okay, so when I read and I don't remember titles now. When I read Tucker's book on decoloniality, I had this. He was focused on the fact that decoloniality is about not getting some sympathy or let us say reparations or money or blah blah blah. It was getting back the land because a native or First Nations or indigenous population can only unite with their history on their land. And the second, that wasn't very new to me. I mean, reading Edward Said just echoed Edward Said, so I was aware of Said. But it emphasized it and it spread it to questions of epistemology because it wasn't just the land, it was the epistemology of the indigenous people versus Western ways of knowing and thinking. Okay, there are ways, and like we are as Muslims, we're most of the time like not ashamed but embarrassed to think that the way we think, the way we believe in God and spirituality, this kind of knowledge is not like the kind of knowledge that could be proven somehow. Like, but this again is how the Western positivistic methods reduced knowledge to. Okay, because science is science is just a small section of knowing the world. It's not the whole way of knowing the world. So knowing and being in the world is not is reductive in the case of Western ways of thinking, which has divorced knowledge and epistemology and being from any other worldly life, because it was here and now. This secularization of knowledge was fought by Abdul Wahab al-Misiri, because he believed that if you just believe in science and you fall into this instrumental modernity, which can send anybody to the gas chambers. But no, there are no, what happened to the Jews in Europe, which was very advanced in all fields. It was 1940, 1939, 1945. I mean, this is not like a very 2 centuries or 4 centuries, not medieval times. It's modern Western societies, advanced, democratic, that sent the Jews to the gas chambers. So knowledge as such is only instrumental. It makes your work faster, you work more in a very optimal way, but not in a very human way. Acting and a humanistic knowledge would go beyond positivism and it's a perfection of method, not of goals. And not its goals would not understand anything that is spiritual or human or anything that you cannot touch or see or test. Or so indigenous people in Australia and in Canada are very close to our way of thinking because they still retain what is spiritual, and the West doesn't. That's what I understand. But here you raise a very important question. You said, besides the land, the female body is a site of resistance. It's a bit feminist, like a classic feminist thing. But instead of resistance, would be a conflict in the classic way. But now it's a place of resistance. I know it's a metaphor, right? Metaphorically.
Not only metaphorically, literally and metaphorically.
Because when I thought about it, if it is not metaphorical, it would essentially means that it recreates indigenous genes on indigenous lands. That's what I got. Like what makes an African, Egyptian, or Aborigine, or First Nations, they are genetically different. Features, thoughts, and I mean, yeah, but they're not whites, right? And would that be a racist way of thinking about it? I mean, what do you think?
Okay, first of all, decoloniality is a little bit different from imperialism and post-colonialism. Post-colonialism critiques the cultural and ideological representations of colonialism through literature or through culture, through the lens of literary and cultural studies. Decoloniality, in contrast, focuses on the ongoing power structures rooted in the colonial encounter. Okay? Yani it could be the coloniality of the curriculum in universities, or a decolonial approach in politics, or a decolonial again, approach in economics or in everyday life. Okay, so it's not an academic search. It's not only a theory. For example, in universities, decolonizing the curriculum by including non-Western curricula or thinkers, challenge the main canon, challenge the Western canon, okay? Recognizing other forms of knowledge, oral histories, indigenous cosmologies, as equally valid to the Western ones, okay? And in politics, for example, through the colonial approach, we can recognize multiple sovereignties or rules, laws, legal systems, and legal systems of the indigenous people, for example. We explore, subaltern third world people, for example. They can explore through a colonial approach alternatives to capitalist extraction and growth-based models. Okay, so they can develop the harmony with nature itself instead of the Western way of taking sources of the native countries. No, we or indigenous people, they can emphasize harmony with nature, okay, and community, okay. So decoloniality is a kind of practicing and a kind of thinking, knowing, being, as you said, an epistemic revolution. In religion, as an example, you have just mentioned, Dr. Mahmoud, just when you are posting posts on Facebook about your own spiritual, religious background, and you find people, they become weird or about your post. It's a kind of exploring yourself, your own identity, religious identity again. Okay, accepting decoloniality means, it doesn't mean refusing totally the other, but working with the results with the other, accepting them, but also working on your own personal, political, social, religious identities. Right? I hope I replied. Sorry, I can't hear. I can't hear Dr. Mahmoud.
I'm sorry, it's me. I've been blocking my. I'm sorry. Dr. Yusuf Shaban, go ahead. You have a question. You've been
Um,
raising your hand for a very long time. So
good,
go
good
ahead.
evening. I'm not a doctor anyway. So good
You're
evening,
gonna
Dr.
become
Mahmoud.
one day, so it's not a real. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
hope so.
Inshallah.
First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Asma, for such a well-developed presentation. Your ideas are actually like insightful and spot on. My question, just and not to take much of your time, is a general question, a bit of a general question, but still to the point. I mean, it's about the validity of poetry as a real means of resistance. I mean, do you think the kind of trauma embodied in poetry could be used as a real means of spreading awareness against colonialism and against occupation? Or, as some people might accuse poetry of normalizing or romanticizing the pain of the previously colonized nation. I mean, in history, at least shows us that it wasn't totally opposed by colonizers. Suppose, for example, Egypt under the British colonialism. Actually, consider a figure like Said Darwish, for example. He was a great poet and singer, especially a poet because he used to write his own songs. And actually, the British did not totally oppose Said Darwish just when he targeted a specific British figure or so. But I mean, all in all, colonizers, in a way or another, admitted this kind of resistance because it could be, in a way or another, an alternative to the physical clash with them. I mean, so this is my question in brief. I know I've taken too long, but my question in brief is poetry an effective or a solely means of resistance, or it can be like a double-edged weapon sometimes?
Yes, questions, Yusuf. And my answer is very simple. Literature or poetry simply mirrors life. Okay, so you can find everything, every single aspect and fields of life in poetry. Through literature, we can know everything about politics, society, sciences, technologies, religion, the development of something, new theories, new approaches through. I know it's only on paper, but still, it's again, decoloniality is an epistemic revolution. So through reading, we have the power to start developing our, to oppose, and criticize something we don't like. So again, I feel in the poetry, through poetry, you can understand life and criticize things in life. This is simply my answer.
Soft power.
Yes, and the
Yes,
poetry sometimes, if you allow me, you can it could it at certain moments it could be your only way of doing things. Like sometimes you of course they're in Palestine, for example, they were face to face with a very uh evil enemy, but they were fighting using weapons. And but in your place you can use poetry, you can use argument, you can use a lecture. So it is use what you can. And sometimes it is even hard sometimes to call a spade in certain circumstances. Ahmed Shawqi, when criticizing
yes,
the when criticize, I don't know, was it Ahmed Shawqi or somebody else, but he said يود الفتى لو يجمع الأرض كلها إليه. الفتى here refers to Khedive Ismail, or someone
Yes.
who is very very powerful. You can, I mean, naming him at that time would have meant like you never know, like imprisonment, maybe a very, very oppressive outcome. So poetry is very, very strong because it converts people to a specific message of truth, resistance, and it lasts for centuries. Even Shakespeare understood it. Like he has written so many poems where he tells his beloved, come on, your beauty will disappear, kings will die, everything that commemorates kings can be war can destroy it. And but in my poetry, you're gonna live forever. And I really agree with him because we can still hear we can still read about those women he loved, or the fair lad, or those kind of people he addressed in his poetry. So poetry has a very um a very strong, it's a kind of a soft method of resistance. It's not like a real but it can really, with the passage of time, it can teach people at least about justices and injustices done. And if it's your only way, then you can only uh depend on it. You do not have access to any other فبلسانه وذلك أضعف الإيمان.
yes. And also, can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, Poetry raises issues, controversies, concepts, ideas, emotions, struggles. It's a side of the struggles as an refusal again. or simply?
Yes.
Yes, we have
I mean,
Dr.
we
Heba
have
Thank you.
Jaber.
so many other people. Where are the questions? I see like more than yeah, we're now like 9 or 8. I mean, we have like 7.
Dr. Heba,
So Dr. Heba Gaber, go ahead, Professor. Go ahead.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Dr. Mahmoud, so much for this lovely chance with Dr. Asma. Of course, Dr. Asma is a very dear friend of mine. I would like to thank her for this very insightful survey of the idea of the decolonization. And I
please,
just have
Dr.
a
Heba,
comment.
can I say something before you continue, Dr. Heba? Dr. Heba, Dr. Mahmoud is a doctor in English literature at Alexandria University. She published many papers inside and outside Egypt.
It's my honor to have
Just
all of you here. Like, I
Thank
should
you.
be.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this chance, Dr. Mahmoud.
You're welcome, Dr. Heba. You're welcome, and I really want to expand this conversation. Like, I want to meet as many people as possible on this rather, um, I would say, antiquated way of doing things. Now people are using all kinds of multimedia and so on. But I opted for this because we're academic talking together. It's a conversation that I record and upload to YouTube. So I would
In
like to
fact,
have all of you. We've already got Dr. Dua Omran, and then maybe you as well if you want to go ahead and do something. I would really
yeah,
love to.
thank you
yeah,
so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahmoud. That's very generous of
You're
you.
welcome.
I think يعني, one of the main roles of the university professor is to extend knowledge and culture outside the borders of the university campus. And
Exactly.
that's really what you
At
are
his own
doing,
risk,
and we
of
all
course.
thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
I just have a comment
Go ahead.
concerning what you have been saying about the role of poetry and in offering alternative ways of enlightening people. Okay, maybe through spreading ideas of decolonization, for example. And you know, when you think of the term decolonization, you think that it is a term that decolonizes the state of colonization, maybe going before colonization. What if colonization didn't take place in the first place? And thinking about that is really opening many, many doors for us, especially when you think about decolonizing, for example, colonial schools that we are all products of nowadays. What if we can decolonize colonial schools that were implanted and spreading nowadays, and worse, international schools, and marginalizing the Arab and religious
And the poorer
identities
classes,
and
people who cannot afford to go to international schools, like it creates classes. Like I can't
but
afford it.
but but many but now there are international national schools,
Yeah,
public schools that are
yeah,
now, yani, the idea of colonizing education needs to be decolonized,
yes,
especially with what we have all been products of as a result of these colonial schools. That's يعني is a very important thing that I think goes hand in hand with the idea of decolonizing poetry and spreading anti-colonial ideas. That was
yes.
just a comment I wanted to
yeah.
add.
That's
And
that's
again,
that's a lecture to pick up for later. I would say, decolonizing education. But I'm going to leave it to for the moment to Dr. Asma. Go ahead.
Yes,
thank you.
Dr. Heba,
Thank you
again,
very
is
much, Dr.
specialized.
Hiba.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I add
Thank you so
something?
much, Professor Mahmoud.
Thank you so much, Heba. Dr. Heba is specialized in this area of colonialism, and
Yeah, sure, she
not
is.
only in Africa but in South Asia, this area of the world. So, and she gave many presentations and published many works on the colonial. Yeah.
Yes, so I would say I have some kind of comment on her comment. And what if colonialism has not taken place? Yes, but I mean, even if you were not colonized, let's say Saudi Arabia was not colonized, Turkey was not colonized, except for a brief occupation of Constantinople or Istanbul. But colonialism isn't just about the physical occupation of a land. It's the
Yes.
dominance of Western civilization, the
Yes.
dominance of a culture, its material dominance, its models that are so strong, and its seductiveness. Western civilization is seductive. It offers seduction in all kinds of fields. Like, you cannot use a new iPhone. I mean, you cannot refuse an iPhone or a laptop. It's making life easy. So it's seductive in a way. It is
Abusive. Abusive.
it's abusing us all the time. But I mean,
Yes.
it's seductiveness. It's
Yes.
not just an ideological thing or epistemological even. It's economic too. And it's military. So if we kind of disagree with America now, you'd find like the whole Mediterranean Sea full of like all kinds of bombs and things. So we're acting under under a coercive international regime that is based in America and in Europe. So decoloniality, epistemologically, we can think about it. And because we as Muslims and Arabs, we have we are way more powerful than the indigenous people in Australia or in Canada, because we have a longer civilization than the West, and we have some kind of kinship with Western civilization. We're not totally different. They're Christians, we're Muslims, we share lots of things, and Western civilization can arguably be considered to have been influenced by Muslim civilization, because their terms of reference can go back to the Greeks, but via Muslims, via Andalusia. It can go back to Aristotle, but via Ibn Sina. So we're somewhere in the middle. So the West, that's why the West failed to defeat us, because we're very similar in certain circumstances. So we can be always talking again about friendship too. Decoloniality doesn't mean like we should disagree totally with the West. Like you would refuse a Fulbright thing, a Fulbright grant. You wouldn't, right? In America. So I would
We
say,
changed our study.
yes, I know, but I mean, you would not totally epistemologically cut yourself off from Western civilization. Or so epistemologically, we can of course go back to our traditions, the Quran, the Sunnah,
Yes.
a long Muslim history of engagement with
We did
philosophy,
Arabic literature. We should
Arabic
research
literature. Yeah.
Arabic literature.
And
Sorry, we have less
that
than
answers.
1 minute.
Yes.
Doctor, we have less than 1 minute.
Yes. I'll take 3 seconds, and that takes us to education. We colonize
Yes.
decolonize education by